Hey everybody, Marissa Brassfield from Abundance 360 here, and I am so excited to host this September Abundance Impact webinar with you guys. On the call with us, we've got four amazing A360 and Abundance community members and Mackenzie from HeroX joining us. We're excited to bring some more stories of how A360 members and Abundance digital members are making impact. And so just before we even get started, I wanted to quickly recap why we're here and why this is important. So A360, Abundance Digital, we share the same mission of helping entrepreneurs create impact in our lives, impact in our businesses, and impact on the planet. And in the vein of Peter's laws, you get what you incentivize. So we came together and with HeroX have launched the Impact Challenge. And I just wanted to highlight, the backstage reasons why we did this. So for us, the partnership with HeroX lets us support three goals. So one is straight up community. This is to help you meet people who are working on projects that you might be interested in, and perhaps to see where you can support and partner with them. The second is really about storytelling, sharing real stories and helping our team have real stories that we can share with people when we try and articulate why this community is so special. And then three, data. We are all about making data-driven decisions, but we simply don't have any numbers and hard facts of any kind to support the kind of impact we're making on the planet. So I ran this first webinar a few months ago as really an experiment, and it's been so much fun to get to spend time with you guys and learn what you're working on, and it's also yielded some really important connections, and so we'll hear a bit more of that today. And so our partnership with HeroX, HeroX is an implementation tool and partner that's available to everyone in the Abundance community. It's not essential to run a HeroX challenge to take part in the Abundance Impact Challenge that's on HeroX. It's a bit meta, but if you choose to, it may be a great crowd tool and solution for you to implement your initiative. But because the challenge is hosted on HeroX, you do need to submit your idea via HeroX to actually register and take part so that we can award a winner and judge accordingly. So Mackenzie is here on the call for any questions about HeroX specifically, so feel free to add those in the Q&A box as you go along. And so today, what we're going to do is learn about the origin stories of this incredible community. I'll ask some follow-up questions, and then we'll open it up to questions from all of you guys. Today's conversation is a little bit different from past webinars where I featured pretty fully fledged companies. Each panelist here today is sharing a relatively early stage idea. And so I want to first of all acknowledge our panelists today for the courage of coming in front of your peers and sharing today when the idea isn't necessarily fully fledged or perfect. And that's the idea, is by coming together and collaborating and connecting with each other, we always find the answers. So let's get started with our first panelist, who is a friend and a co-conspirator on many levels, Andy Tim. Hello, hello.
Hey, thanks, Marissa. Hi, so my name is Andy Tim. I am the ecosystem CTO at PTC. PTC is a 30-year-old company that started in CAD and PLM software, basically tools to help you design products digitally and then create them in the physical world. In the last 5 or so years, we've moved into the Internet of Things space. So our platform ThingWorks is by many voted the industry leader. We've kind of rebranded as an industrial innovation platform. You can think of that as middleware on steroids. Peter talks about all these different exponential technologies, and PTC is right in the middle of many of them. So IoT, augmented and virtual reality, additive manufacturing, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. So ThingWorks is kind of a tool that allows you to connect all of those different technologies and build applications and realize value from them. So what we've learned in the last couple of years, and this is, getting into what I think I can help, in the Abundance 360 group is, these technologies by themselves don't do anything. An algorithm by itself doesn't do anything. Our platform by itself some edge hardware by itself. These things need to be put together in different combinations to achieve some outcome in some industry segment. So my passion and what I've been working on at PTC specifically is how do we combine these partners so that everybody makes money by delivering some business outcome. And so I attended the A360 conference in January for the first time last year and met many of you, and realized I had no idea what my MTP was going to be. And basically just by talking with guys like Joe, who's on the call, and Mike Bloxton and Harpreet and others, realized what I'm good at, and my passion is around kind of applying these different exponential technologies to the problems that they're trying to solve. So breaking down an MTP that may be too large to achieve today, break this into smaller pieces that are achievable, by applying these different exponential technologies, but then also introducing those people to partners that, whose business is AI or AR or in IoT, or they've got this sensor or that sensor. So what I'm trying to do now is take what is right now kind of a one-off conversation. Joe and I spend a bunch of time on the phone figuring out how we can apply different partner technologies to drive his business, and we've got some results on it. And the same with Mike Bloxton and others. I'm looking for a way to scale that so that all these different network connections can happen without one person being in the middle. So I can get into that maybe a little bit later, but I'm not sure how you want to structure the talk. Getting into maybe a solution for some of these types of things. But that's my intro blurb.
Awesome. Thanks, Andy. My favorite bit about how Andy does A360 is he holds court at the bar during the cocktail hours, and that's where a lot of the really important conversations have happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Thanks, Marissa.
Awesome. Let's next go to Joe Clark, an Abundance Digital member.
Hey guys, I'm super happy to be here today. So in my case, I am a serial entrepreneur. So I did start my first company when I was in my 20s. It was one of the internet category killers. So interestingly, back then there was only 23 websites on the web. And we started out B2C, we went B2B, we raised a lot of outside capital. And I always kind of tease with people, I had just gotten out of grad school, but that was my actual MBA. Especially because we ended up having to wrap up the company at the end as well. So it's kind of from founding all the way to the bitter end, and so it was a very incredible experience. But I've done many things since then. But right now, what I started to notice, I'll just kind of do it by telling you a quick story, is that I used to order all these vitamins on Amazon. And so back about 7 or 8 years ago, I had been ordering on Amazon since day one, since they were a bookstore, because I was an internet person. So it's been a long time that I've been doing online orders, but I ordered these vitamins, and I noticed all of a sudden they started coming in different bottles, slightly different labeling, different sizes of pills. And I started thinking, what is going on? And I realized that there was fraud on Amazon. So it piqued my interest. I felt violated, but then I thought, I followed that thread, and that fast forward to today, I realized that there's a lot of issues, and we're putting all our eggs in a shopping basket, no pun intended, that's supposed to be super fast, super easy, and super wonderful, right? But people don't really realize that there are a ton of issues with it. And so I realized over time, with some of my knowledge and being probably a consummate online shopper, is that the whole thing had an opportunity to be completely restructured from the ground up in a way where everything could be authenticated. There would be more margin and better productivity on both sides of the transaction. So both the consumer and the company, the vendor, as well as more margin to go around and playing into the way things are today, not the way they are when this was all structured 20 years ago. And so everything has changed, absolutely everything, but we're still, everyone, Google, Walmart, Jet, everyone, eBay, is still doing things kind of the way the model was 20 years ago. And they're adding new features and functions. But I actually think that if we restructured it completely, which is obviously a gigantic undertaking, I think it would be so much more efficient. I'll just give you one quick stat. There's about a 30 to 50% return rate on all online orders. Now that's bad for everybody, right? It's bad for you and I as the consumer if we have to pack up those boxes. I live in a high rise in Houston. I go in our recycling room. There's tons of boxes in there. And then there's UPS trucks, and now the drones haven't even descended upon us yet, right? So think about this stat. There's only 13% of all commerce in the US is even online yet. So I don't know if you guys realize that, but think about what happens when it gets to 30%, 50%. So it's really unsustainable. So that's kind of what I'm working on, and I'm always open to anything and everything this community has to contribute to that line of thinking.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Let's next go to George, fellow LA guy, just waving hello from a few miles away.
Yep. Hey guys, glad to be here. Thanks, Marissa, for inviting me. I started off as a digital member and logged into the live stream this year, and I think on the second day upgraded to be there in person for 2019. But so what I'm going to talk a little bit about is that I posted about an AI project that I had, and Marissa asked me to join, so thank you for inviting me up. But I thought it'd be helpful to kind of give a little bit of a background in my journey, and it'll kind of help set the stage a little bit. So I was involved with the company. I kind of helped. Well, I was a CEO. I grew it. We had a nice exit in February of this year. And I've been asking myself the MTP questions. And I've gotten clarity around that, where it's really around my personal transformation is being part of facilitating, witnessing, providing breakthroughs and transformations so people live higher quality lives, happier, healthier, higher quality lives. So that's what I get fired up about. Think like kind of Tony Robbins style, but on a smaller scale, at least to start. And so I thought when I sold my company, I was going to have the next AI startup, and I was going to have this AI life coaching app and build the next unicorn. And so that was the first iteration of my journey. And from there, and just networking and speaking to a lot of people, I started to come on to the lifestyle side of things. And even Peter had some good advice for me, where he mentioned, look, maybe you could invest and be, help startups as opposed to be the guy if that's not what you want to do. So anyway, I took off some time, and I started a company called Exit to Impact, where we help entrepreneurs that also feel stuck, burnt out, or handcuffed. They know that they have a greater calling in life, but they just need to be able to work for a year or two, build value, sell for top dollar, and be able to pursue that greater calling in life. So I started with that, and that's been going good. But what I realized is that I have skill sets that can help the entrepreneur, not just at that final step, but prior in the entrepreneurial journey, both just kind of business and life coaching wise. And all along, I knew I liked all of Peter's exponential technologies, but it seemed like it was too distinct from what I was doing. But recently, a few of my clients, I've seen opportunities as I'm working with them to see where these exponential technologies would apply, kind of like what Andy was talking about. So there's a couple that I'm working with right now, and I'm looking to learn and build contacts and resources and tools, kind of like what Andy's been doing. But the one in particular that is kind of hot and is funded and has got me pretty excited is a company that does loans for small businesses. They help solve problems for small business owners. So, a small business owner has something that is either really good, they need money for growth, or let's say it's a restaurant and their main kitchen blows up. He's going to go buy a new oven, but he's going to have cash flow issues. So he's going to need some money to help him get into place. So this is what one of my best friends does. They have a pretty large and growing company. They just got funded a large amount of additional capital. And so what they want to do is they've not really been looking at the data, and certainly not using machine learning, deep learning, AI So there's a great opportunity where they have the oil, they have the data, but nobody's really kind of been tapping that. And so I'm kind of leading the charge with bringing these exponential technologies. I could see a AI and maybe even a blockchain play where we can use their data. We can combine that with social data that we can pull online, whatever is legal and permissible from their social profiles. I could also see kind of a mobile play. If for those of you guys that were on Kai-Fu Lee's webinar, which was great, he set some examples about a finance company that could kind of from the mobile phone pull a lot of information. So I have that in mind, as well as with mobile you can track behavior. So how many hours a day is the person on the phone? How many hours do they spend on social media? That could be a signal for creditworthiness in new and interesting ways that not only are they not looking at, but maybe the bigger financial companies aren't either. So I'm pretty excited about it. I guess what's in it, it's really a project right now. It's not a business. I don't think it's an abundance impact kind of submission. But what's in it for me is this is one of my best friends who helped me with my exit. I wouldn't have had a great exit if it wasn't for him. So it's an opportunity to reciprocate, pay it forward back to him, but really be able to learn about AI and maybe incorporate this kind of exponential technologies practice, consulting practice into the broader entrepreneur coaching practice to help small and medium-sized businesses be able to adopt the technologies that we're learning about in this community. And then the best case scenario would be kind of, again, like Andy was referring to, is like if there's a repeatable and scalable tool would be great, or at least a process where, because right now I'm talking to a bunch of people and doing a lot of legwork. So anyway, without going too much over on time, that's kind of what I'm up to and what my journey's been. And I'll turn it over back to you, Marissa. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, George. And to round out our first round here, Joe Perez, who is the most senior A360 member on this call. You've been part of the community for several years, and it's been so amazing connecting with you at the events and throughout the year. So, and I think you have the most unusual setup today. Take it away, please.
Well, thank you, Marissa, and I'm delighted to be here, and thanks, Andy, for bringing me into this thing. I have been a member from the beginning. Since Peter opened it up to outside of his immediate circle. So, and I've been keeping pretty good connections with members over the years. But I will tell you, this year it kind of went to a separate level. I mean, I met Andy when we had lunch one day, and we started, hey, what do you do? What I do? We literally started, coming up, brain juices working, and started coming up with ideas, and said, as soon as we get back, we need to link up. He's in Austin, I'm in San Antonio, so we eventually did that. So I'm a federal contractor, man. I don't have a sexy, deal. We pick up trash for a living. I've created programs for recycling, wash windows, a lot of physical, blue collar type work. But we've also taken a lot of the things that I've learned from Peter and exponentials and things where I've tried to bring in or integration of technologies as much as I can to my customer, being the federal government, as well as utility companies. So we do smart meter integration here in Texas, Kentucky, Ohio, Chicago, things like that. One of the things that we started, me and Andy started working on is he's a very, very, very large business, has a very important and direct skill set and a capability within his company. I don't have that. I have a lot of little things. I have a lot of connections with a bunch of different federal agencies, a lot of different utility companies across the country. I have that. And my little piece, because I'm a small business, and by the way, I guess it was Joe talking about, I've had some good businesses, so I've been up to the mountaintop. I've also been down to the bottom, and I lost my shirt one time as well. So my liquidity event was a zero, for that one company, and I started another one in April. I started another one. So one of the things that I see with pulling from other members within the group is they have skill sets and technologies that I can leverage for my business, and I can bring access to their technologies, which they wouldn't otherwise have. They probably could, but because I'm a small business and certified, I have other avenues that I can probably leverage. So those are some of the things I have. And I guess, I want to turn it, don't take too much time, but give that up to Andy to really discuss how we have started working together in this idea, and what we've cobbled together is actually his idea, and it started, and then we just expanded it a little bit more over the recent past. Okay?
Awesome. Thanks. So, I mean, you're kind of anticipating a question that I had on my mind as each of you presented, let's go one more round robin, and I'd love for you to each articulate like the specific business model and opportunity that you're each creating. So, Andy, fire it up.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. That's a good kind of a segue. If I go into my kind of IoT spiel, though the outcome could be a project in any industry segment, there's a lot of different components that need to work together. So Joe, as you talk about retail, we're doing a lot there right now. So I'm excited to catch up with you on your shopping progress. If you're in a retail establishment, say a Starbucks, maybe they want to gather some new insight about their shopping behavior. How much, make something up on the fly here, how much money has each person in the store spent over the lifetime of Starbucks? And we can figure that out by using a camera and some video analytics that can do facial recognition and an integration with the point of sale system. So just to build that solution, I've listed 3 companies, but we also need an IoT platform to stitch it together. We need somebody to do the development work, someone to implement the solution, and someone to say, be on the other end of the phone call when it breaks and they call, say, hey, this isn't working. So that's, at least 6 different disciplines that need to somehow come together to solve this problem. And, if we're just saying to those customers, here's an IoT platform, these are the types of things you can do, they're never going to get there on their own. So as Joe was saying, if we go collect, I call them wedges, to Trivial Pursuit, the little token with the wedges in it. When you get all the wedges, you win. You need all of those for value to come out. So, I've been with companies like with Joe and with Mike Box and other A360 members trying to figure out how to assemble these things kind of in a manual way. We've got that figured out. It's working. And now I'm trying to figure out how do we do this, at scale more broadly, where we can keep many different conversations going. So George, I think what you've been talking about is perfect, and I look forward to comparing our efforts, because I think the goal here, from what I hear you, is you're kind of helping on a more of a management consulting level. These are the types of exponential technologies that can help you, and what I'm trying to do is then pair those consumers of the technology with the providers of the technology. If you've got a great AI algorithm, you got to figure out who can buy it, and those that can buy it don't know that you exist. So how do we put all these pieces together? So what I'm trying to do is build, this is a very early prototype, but a platform where, by invitation only, we collect a bunch of these different partners and we work together to build opportunities where, as we assemble the pieces, different opportunity, different solutions can be developed. And we've seen this working. I held almost quarterly have a bunch of entrepreneurs to my house in Austin, and we kind of just sit around and introduce ourselves and say, how can we help each other? It's kind of the reciprocity play. Let's take off our corporate hats and just get to know each other and say, I'm having this challenge. Maybe someone that can help, or you built this thing and I know who else would buy it. So then we go to the backyard and drink beer and have barbecue and stuff. But out of that has come at least 20 different conversations that I'm now trying to track in this system. So I think, what I'm asking of the abundance community is, to pick a couple people that want to work with this, work with me on this. You're almost certainly going to get a benefit out of it. Your business will advance, or your MTP will evolve, in its execution. And what I get out of that is learning, how to recognize the patterns as we put the pieces together to build solutions. Play matchmaker between the producers of technology and those that can consume it.
That's awesome. Thanks, Andy. And I love the format of those home gatherings. George, want to go next, since you're in a similar vein, and then we'll go to Joe and Joe?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, Andy, for sure. We should connect afterwards. Sounds like we kind of have this similar idea. Would love to come have some barbecue in Austin. Sounds fun. So I guess my ask from the community is, if you're in AI and you heard what I said and you think you can help, obviously that would be phenomenal. I'm looking for teams, people, experts, tools, recommendations. But also, I think there might be another profile where, just like me, you're excited about what you're learning, and maybe you're not an expert, you're a newbie, but you really want to just be part of the mission and help out. So, I'd love to kind of, have a team that we can all learn together and execute. And, the more hands on deck is going to be able to provide additional support. And then if anybody wants to talk about any of the other stuff that I mentioned earlier, I'm happy to do that as well.
Awesome. Joe Clark, what is the specific business model and the opportunity that you're creating?
So I've given this a lot of thought, and I thought you really need, because it's so different than, we've heard about some of this. For example, what my vision was with the technology was all the technologies Andy mentioned and some that George as well, that we would be using all of those actually. So for example, if I saw you on the street and I wanted to buy the shirt you had on, I would just hold up my phone and every product in the universe would actually be smart chipped. But not just smart chipped so that you could identify the product, but it would have all the data. Like if you had an allergy to cotton, what the specs of the J. Crew shirt is so it knows your size. And that you can instantly pull it up on your own 3D avatar and see it on yourself in advance of buying it in motion, and then see an upsell of multiple items. And this goes for every category, not just fashion. It's like clothing, food, environments, furniture, whatever. Anything really that's purchasable, you could literally hold up your phone and buy it instantly with one tap in an agnostic shopping cart. So what I did at least do is I wrote everything down in detail in the vision of put a provisional patent application in. And then the next step is to, I thought about, all of these brands, let's say it's Nike or whomever, they're not going to do this whole new way of doing business unless someone does it for them on the back end. And so I thought there would be a SaaS part of it, and there would be a front end application part of it for individuals, and then on the back end for the businesses. And for the businesses, you digitalize 3D, photograph, you kind of bring them into the next century of how shopping is going to be instead of the way it is. And you come up with a protocol. There are existing protocols. There's new potential protocols. You could use blockchain computers, those tiny chips, or you could use a smart RFID technology on the products themselves. But you would literally have to do it for all of these brands. And then I thought, well, the incentive would be that they would get double the margin, especially if they're selling through retail. So right now, if Nike's selling through Dick's Sports, they're selling to them for 50, they're selling it to the consumer for 100, whatever. They would get the whole pie with the exception of the slice that we take. And then you could actually buy multiples of things all in one cart with just one tap. One of the other big issues is everyone is asking you to download their app to buy something. And then you have to go through a long checkout process. And it's painful. Then you're on their email list. And now you're getting 8,000 emails a day, right? So what I thought we had the opportunity to do is to just suck all that friction out of the process and make it one tap, simple. So all of that sounds great theoretically, but what I need right now is, I did almost pair up with a SaaS company, but I determined that I didn't think it was a good fit. Someone had put us together. What I need really is the technological expertise. I do have experience. I've raised capital. I have a great vision. I've put it down on paper. There's a working document. But I need really people who do believe in the mission, kind of like George said. But also I'm looking for a technology muse, someone who gets it and believes in that. And I'm even looking for something a little bit different, too, from the community. And the muse could be one person or it could be multiple people, because obviously with something like that, you need just a bevy of different types of talent. But one last thing I'll mention, because the community and the type of people are in, is I feel like if you think about what Peter wants us to do, and he's challenging us to make the world a better place, right? And so it's not just that we're creating these companies that could get an exit. I mean, yes, of course you'd love an exit, but it's got to be bigger than that, or it's not going to drive you through those dark moments. And so I started to realize how dark like corporate culture is in a lot of these companies. It's very toxic. And so I wanted to take this platform to create like a bring like in a corporate shrinks or something, I don't know, but where you have a mechanism to diffuse toxicity in corporations and distrust and all that kind of stuff, and to help people galvanize the mission, synthesize all these talents together, and motivate them properly, by, if they're telling you as their boss, they're not going to be honest because they want to tell you what you want to hear, right? But if they're telling the corporate shrink, hey, she treats me like this or whatever, I think that you can create a whole new organizational culture model. And so if someone is interested in that, that's something I don't really have any background in, but it is part of my overall vision.
Amazing. Thank you, Joe. And, as I'm hearing each of you share, this is an incredible group, you guys. So if anyone attending, if you have any questions for these amazing entrepreneurs, please enter them in the Q&A box. Otherwise, I'll keep going. And then panelists, I also want to empower you to riff with each other, because there's so much overlap here, and in both the initiatives and how you're thinking about things. And so I think just from a capability perspective, I want to empower that action as well. Joe Perez, want to quickly to discuss the business model and the opportunity you're creating.
So I'm working with Andy, and I will tell you that a lot of the things that Joe just mentioned, we had those very similar conversations in Austin just a week and a half ago. And so when you start taking advantage of everything that you mentioned exists today, everything in pieces. The problem is they're not connected. And what Andy has put together and what we're trying to put together is a situation where I can leverage a specific skill, a task set, somebody's specific skill, or a piece of technology they already own. And so a little bit behind mine, so we do smart meter integration. I have technicians in multiple states doing either gas, water, electric smart meter installations, right, and maintenance. And so without deviation, all of them use a work order management system that's typically on a handheld computer device that you track data, everything from serial numbers to the meter read to the address and geolocation of the meter that you're installing. I mean, down to 18 inches sort of thing. The problem is it's very antiquated, in dealing with gas and electric specifically, very dangerous work. There's a lot of PPE you have to wear, and you have to be hands-free. You have to stop doing what you do, typing into the handheld, put your safety gear on, these heavy rubber gloves, just to do the next step. Then you take all it off and do it again. Well, talking through with Andy back in January, and then just moving forward, it's like, hey, and I wish I had a piece of equipment that was voice activated and I had it on my head. And he says, I have one of those. Oh, cool. Then he starts going on, well, we can do this, and we can pull this kind of data off of it. We can write algorithms to actually do this. And so all of those things, I don't know anything about it. I'm the muddy boots on the ground kind of guy. That's what we do. But all those other pieces put together in a puzzle and wrapping them up into one solution, because all the pieces exist already, I can come over here and leverage it. My people, first of all, go home every day alive to their loved ones, and I get more work and better work done. That's where we're going, and that's the idea behind what Peter's been teaching us since I've been going with him over the last 6 years and whatnot, and saying this is what we do to better and scale our capabilities. So everything Joe was talking about, a lot of what George was saying, but really getting the people in the room saying, hey, this is what I know how to do. We talked about RFID, smart RFID. I met a gentleman who his company is incredible and does specifically smart RFID. Well, I do a lot of work for the Army, the Air Force, and the bottom line, they're the biggest warehousers in the country, right? And so they warehouse everything from bullets to beans. And if we can make their capability or their job easier, be more efficient with the very lean workforce, the Army, Air Force, Marines that we have, it makes sense. How do we become more efficient in that way? And so really want to, the guy that really can speak to this is Andy on some of the things. We're starting a beta here very soon with a colleague of mine, one of the companies that I work with, the federal side. It's an ambulance company. Okay, so everybody knows what an ambulance does. Okay, we respond to a 911 call, but it could be somebody who just broke their leg, or it can be a level 1 trauma situation where people are open chest wound or something, and I have to take care of this patient, keep them alive from where I pick them up and get them to a level 1 trauma center, a hospital. Well, there's a lot of things that in the mix that have to happen between the time I put them inside my ambulance and time we get them to the hospital. And so how do we take the solution that I'm going to use for my technicians in the field for a meter to help that and have direct connectivity from the hospital in the cab of the ambulance while I'm going there, and the doc's telling me, hey, first of all, I can't stabilize this guy. What do I need to do to stabilize him just to get him to the hospital 20 minutes from now? And the doc can talk into your ear, and he can see what the technician is seeing or the EMS paramedic is seeing right then and there. So those things exist now. The thing is that doesn't exist is how do we have them connected and leveraging, the PTC's capability and their IoT solutions and putting all those wedges that he's talking about into one disk. And then they're interchangeable. So I'm working with EMS now. I'm working with, utility companies, but now I'm going to work with retail. You take some wedges out, put another wedge in, and you have that. And so, and Andy, I don't know, am I pulling stuff out of the air? Am I hitting it correctly? Am I guess, verbalizing what we've been talking about the last couple of months, right?
No, this is great. It's really awesome to hear somebody else, going on what I'm usually babbling about and clearly gets it. So Joe, I mean, we need to connect because I can help immediately. The partners that I've connected for this first ecosystem that we're trying to build are exactly what you just talked about. So we've got a whole bunch of partners from all over the world, big partners, little partners in every industry, all sorts of cameras and RFID and video streaming analytics and algorithms, you name it, Amazon and HP, big companies, little companies. So I think one of the things I want to call out specifically, Joe, that you mentioned is that these things are reusable. So when we build a wedge that might be, one person's tech from, the original solution that was for EMTs in an ambulance, that building block of a solution can immediately be reused in retail or somewhere else. And this platform that I'm envisioning that I'd like to get a couple extra participants from this call involved with, once we go through the initial discovery and build something or even describe something that could be built, because there's other people accessing this platform looking, say, Joe, you were in this thing and you're saying, wow, I sure wish I had a solution that will allow me to do, computer vision and recognize the piece of, the clothing or shoe that I'm looking at and identify that in the database. Well, it turns out we've got stuff like that. So, they put the thing in once and now other people are pulling from it. So you build it once and sell it many times. Plus you don't have to do that job anymore. Someone else is doing it. So it's really kind of if Uber is a two-sided platform matching drivers with riders, what I'm envisioning is kind of an N-sided platform where everybody helps find everybody else. And we've seen this work, like you said, in the meeting in Austin where you're face to face and all these, like you're talking to Todd at RF Controls and, I didn't even know about that. We need to get you guys into this platform so those interactions get captured and now other people can leverage the value that you guys are creating. So it's kind of just a massive way to scale and take advantage of the work that everybody else is doing.
And just on that example, with RF Controls, for instance, me, Joe Pettis, Frontline Support Solutions, can't do all the work. we just physically cannot do all the work, right? That's out there, and plus it's federal contracts and whatnot. So there's something that we have to work around, because then it could be somebody else like a Joe, some other state that has work with, I don't know, the General Service Administration or any other federal agency, the Bureau of Land Management. It doesn't matter. If you have the tool built that just needs a little tweak because, now it has this kind of logo on it and you change it to this logo, hey, fine. It's as simple as that. But the infrastructure being built is the key. This is the infrastructure, at least the idea that for my, muddy boots side of it, not the technology side that Andy has experience and knows very well. They have these tools, but you need somebody to implement, somebody to come out. So, one of the things that I have here is once we learn how to use this, do this beta and we, break out some kinks, it might be better to do 2 or 3 or 4 little things, but that's expandable from there. Can I use it for training? Can I use it for, data capture, historic data capture? It's a lot of endless, really, opportunities there.
I think this is an interesting topic, if I can jump in, because, this is the biggest thing in my headspace about it. It's the big unknown, which is, I think, like, for example, the 2 clients I'm working with, very much like you, Joe, they're successful business owners, they're visionaries, but, they wouldn't, from what I understand, Andy, and I certainly would love your comment on this, it's like, you can't just refer the tool, because it's really going to take somebody like an Andy or like myself or others that are going to be there to babysit the project. Because, I came from 15 years of, like you, Joe, we worked with federal government, state, local government. We implemented technology solutions, workflow automation, document management. That's the world I came from, was helping companies digital transformation, eliminate paper, automate workflows. So even then, with like commercially off-the-shelf products, it was still complicated, long projects, lots of risk, lots of areas where things can go wrong. And I only imagine that times 10 in terms of risk and for, plugging in an AI and having that now be the new basis of their credit decision-making, as an example. So I think that's the thing that I'm thinking about, is how much of, what is that going to look like? Because we can't just refer the Joes to the AI companies and hope that it goes well. And what does that look like for the middleman, like the Andy or myself, and what level of hand-holding, risk mitigation, how in depth are we going to have to go to help bring a solution up and make sure it's working before we can kind of turn our attention to the next project?
Love that. I've got a great question in from Francis that I'd love each of you to answer. But first, I am the team and I are like furiously messaging back and forth because we are wanting to ask this selfish question. And perhaps it's George and Andy, but everybody feel free to chime in. But how do you go about deciding which new technologies can be applied to your business to create a disruptive model? I mean, of course, at A360, we're talking about 8, 9, 10, 11 technologies, but there's also the business models. Like, how do each of you think about determining specifically what?
So let me make sure I understood the question. How, with the whole Chinese menu of exponential technology to choose from, how do you pick the right ones that can help a specific business idea?
Yeah, what's ready now?
Yeah, I think it's sometimes it's an opportunistic thing. If like the conversation that I started with Joe, like you said, at lunch at A360, I had just gotten done working with this company called RealWear that has this HMT1 headset that he mentioned, and when he explained to me that he's got frontline workers that are out, changing gas meters, it's just obvious that augmented or assisted reality is a fit for that particular use case. So I think it's, there's some opportunistic aspect of it where the conversations that are recent in your mind, but then it's kind of having a general understanding of what all these different things can do. and knowing that, okay, there's probably a role for AI with Joe, doing some machine learning to optimize jobs and figure out which workers are the best, so we can, use them as examples and train the ones that aren't. I think though that there's an aspect of starting small and saying, okay, the first thing that we can do together that's going to give you some value is to put this headset on them. And then let's get that working first. And then let's see if we can apply, AI to something. And then let's see if we can apply, something else, robotics. You don't need to try to do everything. Not every technology is a fit for every situation. So I'll see maybe George or others have comments as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think from my perspective, Peter's done a great job of always introducing us and keeping, up to speed on the cutting edge. But it doesn't stop there. You have to keep educating yourself and learning more, assuming you have that base where you kind of understand what's available and you're technical. For me, it's just listening to the customer. So, I mean, that's how these two projects have come about. In the other example, which I didn't touch on, they're a 20 million and growing shipping company, and in working with them and helping them with their long range goals, we were talking about the customer feedback, and what the CEO said is, it's unfortunate because every time we talk to our customers, the number one thing that they want is fixed pricing. And obviously we can't give that because a shipment's going to vary, the distance, the number of people, like all the specifics around like custom shipments, not just like shipping a basic package. So you hear that, and that's the opportunity is they've not, this is what their customers want. It could represent an X factor solution for them that could 10x their business, and they're not familiar with some new technologies that might be able to help out with that. So what if we could create an algorithm that looked based on all the prior shipments and could estimate where 95% or more of the time we could get it right? And, we might lose money 5% of the time, but as a whole, we made a lot more money because, we're able to give customers what they wanted, which was that fixed pricing for their budgeting purposes. So for me, and the same with the other one where, again, it was just a matter of my friend, we're having dinner, we're having drinks, and, he says he's raised a bunch of money, but he's really concerned about what's going to happen as they start deploying it. And so I could make that connection where, okay, well, if we had some AI so for me, that's what it is. It's listening to the customer's problems, like their biggest goals and biggest issues, and figuring out which one of your kind of Chinese menu of exponential technologies you can apply to it.
Awesome.
I mean, in my case, I would say the main thing is, I'm sure you guys have heard this statistic, but about 80% of all purchases are done by women. And I think it's just because a lot of time they caretake for the children and their husband, or, if they've got a family, and for themselves if they're single. And so they're just driving all of its purchasing. And so over the years, first of all, being an online shopper since day one, and then following I follow the industry closely. So for me, it's being a subject, being kind of the person that's the customer, and trying to, and experiencing all these hiccups and saying, oh my gosh, this doesn't have to be this way. The technology exists to be able to solve this problem. And seeing that happening like 5 times within a single transaction, and all of these sticking points that could easily be solved by, like Joe said, knitting together the right technologies that already exist, but in a new way. But it's combining those experiences as a purchaser with staying really close with the technology and with communities like Peter's community, and just staying like Brendan. Gosh, that guy, he posts a mind-blowing article at least once or 3 times a day. And I'm just on it because I know that there's something, he's got credibility now that I just jump on those, and I try, even if I have to read it fast, I try to read it because I'll pick up one thing and I'm like, that's it, something I've been thinking about or ruminating on. So I think it's just, you do have to, I think if you're doing a startup or if you're doing a moonshot of any type, you have to stay abreast of what's going on. But you also have to make sure I'm doing this thing called Y Combinator Startup School right now. And it's really fascinating. Like they tell you, you have to vet everything. So if you have a theory, like in Joe Perez's case, his theory might be, if this works for ambulances, it should work for trash trucks or whatever. But the thing is, you actually have to check, you know? And so they have you challenge your own assumptions by reaching out to everybody in, you know, whether it's a customer or a B2B customer, and going through this process with them and getting their feedback. And they actually make you do that as part of the curriculum. So that was something new to me. I just thought, oh, this is going to work. This is great. It's, you know,
Yeah.
But it's got to be way more than that.
So, Joe, I mean, that's a good point. So that's why we're going to jump on and doing this beta with an ambulance company. We're going to identify, 2 or 3 use case and actually check to see if it works. I mean, we're going to see if it works and then find what, we're basically on A/B testing it is what we're doing, right, Andy? I mean, we're going to be putting it into that type of situation, but getting it to validate the model that we're building.
Awesome. I love the emphasis on data-driven decision-making and identifying opportunities within problems. Those are 2 themes that Peter always talks about. So I just love that the conversations we're all having involve that. Let me get to this question from Francis because it's a great one. What are each of you most excited about in the next 2 to 5 years for growth, and what's your definition of success? Joe, would you like to start? Joe Clark, would you like to start this one?
Well, I will say my definition of success has changed dramatically from the time I did my first startup. I was calculating, okay, if I have 200,000 shares and we go to $40 a share, I'll be a billionaire, But the funny thing now is I feel like there's this incredible entrepreneur who actually is not with us anymore, Aubrey McClendon, and he always says, you have to leave, you have a mission, you're here for a mission, just kind of like what Peter was saying, and you have to leave the world a better place than when you left it. And Einstein, if you ever looked into him, he used to idolize Sir Isaac Newton. And so he took it upon himself and said, okay, my job as a human being, I have to perform at or above that level if I'm doing my job here, right? Otherwise, I'm not performing at the same level as my forefathers or whatever. So I think if you're going to define success for yourself, maybe reach out of your comfort zone and say, hey, what can I do that would be at or above, like a Jeff Bezos and a Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates and all of the people of our time? What can we do that accomplishes the same thing that they did, but then moves the needle further? And I realize that sounds ridiculously huge, but that's kind of the way Einstein thought. And that's when all the revelations came to him. He put it out there and then the answers came, right? So that's what I would say my definition of success is: don't do something unless it's really worth doing, right? And then what was the other question? It was...
Yeah, most excited about in the next 2 to 5 years for growth, and then definition of success. Definitely
virtual worlds. I love Philip Rosedale and all of that. And that, oh gosh, I forget it. Is it Gabriel Rene? The spatial internet? That is, and biohacking. Anything having to do with the body.
Love it. Andy?
Yeah, I typed in an answer to Francis, but I'm a little more specific in my goals. I'm laser focused on getting this network off the ground where partners can help find each other. So my short-term success. I mean, I'm excited about a bunch of things in the future. I'm a just fanatic about economic platforms. If you haven't read Platform Revolution before, that's a book you should read. I'll post the link in there. Talking about how network effects, it's the Ubers and the Airbnbs of the world that's where I think we need to get into, because everybody wins when everybody else wins. So I want to create a small scale version of that in the near future, and success will be, when we have a solution, let's say Joe Perez and I get a solution for this EMS company, and someone else that is on this little platform says, hey, I can sell that over here. So something that we build once gets sold another time where we didn't have to do any more work. That will be success for me. Yeah, I see you posted that link in there. Thank you.
Awesome. Joe Perez.
So, success looks different for every initiative that I do, right? So, well, when I define success as, hey, if it's a money-driven thing or is it an hour-driven thing, it can be something, hey, how much professional development can I get to my teams? And because I do a bunch of different things, right? My company does just a bunch of different disparate things. But, it all comes back to one. And it's people, driving people, motivating people, and getting them going. So, I try to surround myself with people that have the same type of core values that I have. And so success looks a little bit different, every different thing, but ultimately comes back to, our team working together, pulling as one. What I see the next, 2 to 5 years is, I see the initiative me and Andy are working together on going to be success. I see it because it exists now. And if we just connect the right dots, it's going to work because it's needed. I mean, ultimately it's needed. And I just see that, our the A360 group as a whole, I think as we continue to pull like this, because this is the first webinar like this one that I've been on that is more talking about other A360 members. I mean, we've had these kind of discussions on different topics, which is good too, but this is the first one, and I like this, so where we're actually getting into how do I leverage another member of the 360 group, whether it's digital or, the ones that we get together every January. And so, again, I've kept in contact with a bunch of them, and some of them come in and out and change, but, not until this year have we jumped into an initiative where I can actually work with a colleague, a fellow 360 colleague and do a project, and let's check it out.
Yeah, that's definitely the goal here, is activating community connectivity. George, what are you excited about in the next 2 to 5 years, and what's success for you?
Yeah, my answer is a little different. I kind of came from, the super planned out long-term goals and kind of very money oriented. But, that caused a lot of stress and like inflammation and health type stuff. And I'm definitely into longevity and envision 100 plus. So it's really like I've optimized for happiness. So that comes first and foremost is for me to be balanced and healthy and happy with my family, my wife, my kids, and everything kind of flows from there. So that's really what my definition of success first starts from. And then I'm not looking 2 to 5 years out. My exit was in February, and I've given, or my wife's given me until next February to kind of get it figured out. So I'm in a massive, like I'm the startup. And so I'm like iterating and experimenting myself. So I'm trying the exponential technologies thing. I'm trying the exit and helping entrepreneurs exit. I'm also just networking and learning and getting myself into different environments to figure out what's going to be best. And also I'm not attaching to the breakthroughs and transformations. While it does resonate, I've had that, and I want to remain open. And I want to I've tried my best to just clear out as much space to kind of get to nothing and then start from there to be able to get true clarity. Because I feel like I'm at an important juncture in my life to figure out like why I was really put on this planet. It may be something different than breakthroughs and transformations. So I want to remain open to that as well. So that's kind of the space that I'm in. I'm really looking 3 to 6 months out and just running a bunch of experiments.
I love that. And I hope you'll share those experiments on the digital app as well. So as we round down our hour together, I have one lightning round question for you guys. And then I'll tell you about our next webinar. And that question is, how specifically can the abundance community support each of your initiatives? Andy, let's rock with it.
Yeah, so I kind of said that already once, is I'd like to invite, a small number. I can't do everybody, but eventually I'd love to do everybody So if I can get 3 or 4 people that are interested in joining this small platform that I'm creating, I'd love to work with you and get you involved. Marissa, as my communities are not just about technical work, but social work as well. So, I tricked your husband into joining Team PTC. We're running the Chicago Marathon on the 7th. So can't tell too much from the camera, but I am not a skinny guy. So this is a big effort for me. And, so my direct ask could be, if you're interested in being, one of the 3 early adopters of this platform, make a contribution to our donations. And I'll post the link in the thing, but reach out. I mean, I donation or not, I'm interested in expanding my network of people that are helping to solve each other's problems. And I'm certain, anyone that's talked to us has seen benefit in doing this. So I think, it's a network, it's a network, Metcalfe's law. The more people that have a telephone, the more valuable the telephone is. So looking forward to having that grow. I'll post that link here.
Awesome. And I'll see you in Chicago on October 7th. And E360 is definitely going to support our team MDA as well. Let's see, Joe Clark, how can the A360 community support you?
I would just say, of course, reach out. I put my email and my LinkedIn in the chat. If you, A, want to be involved, B, see something that you just want to send my way, anything in between. I'm like George, I'm super open. I'm always welcoming and stuff like that. So just very honored and excited to be able to connect with everyone today. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe. Joe Perez.
Actually, I'd like to offer my help if I can help somebody in any way. I'm working with Andy right now. So, we just want to get this. I think, I feel strongly about this platform. I think we can get it working, and I think it's going to be successful. Just, and it's, I don't want to rely on the planning fallacy that's out there. I understand the pitfalls and the tribulations we're going to have to go through, but if we grind, we'll get through it. That's my experience. And so there's going to be ups and downs, but I think if we grind through it, we'll get it done.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. We're so grateful to have you in A360. And George, take us home, and then I'll just share our next webinar.
Sure. If you can hear my son GB3 crying in the background, I apologize about that. I echo what was said. I mean, I think if you heard what I said and you have specific AI recommendations and that knowledge, let me know. If you're a learner and you just kind of want to be part of this cause of bringing exponential technologies to companies and just want to join the team and see where it'll go, that'd be great. And then like Joe said, I mean, if I could help you, if you have some ideas, I definitely want to make myself available. That's the nice thing about not having a full-time job is, I have time, and I definitely want to do my part in giving back.
Awesome. Thanks, George. And our next webinar is going to be on October 9th. Peter is going to be with Dan Sullivan, co-founder of Strategic Coach, and his coach. We get to go up every quarter to Strategic Coach for workshops, and it's where Peter thinks about his thinking. And if you're listening to Exponential Wisdom, you know the magic that happens when these two guys get together. So October 9th is when that's taking place. And of course, we'll post announcements on the app. Thank you to everybody, our panelists today, and everyone who joined us today, everyone watching the replay. And I look forward to seeing you all next month for the post-Chicago Marathon edition of the Abundance Impact webinar. Have a great day and a great week, everybody, and I'll see you soon.